Hey everybody, we are your doctors feel good. Welcome to Positive Minds. I am Myndrunner, and with me is the doctor of positivity himself, Positively Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
I am well. How are you, Mindrunner?
I am doing fantabulous. My goddess wife is doing awesome too. She knows how to make Starbucks from home, so we don't need to go
Dude,
out and get expensive coffee because
jealous.
she is our magical barista. I'm caffeinated. I'm excited. And again, I'm excited about, I'm not a morning person. I've always been a kind of a not so Monday morning person, but that's one of the reasons we put this together
That's right.
is we're not going to let you have a bad Monday, a bad start to your week. We want to start you off positive, some inspiration, maybe a few laughs, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's the goal, right? Obviously, that's the mission, and we
Yes.
can aspire to achieve that. And if we've made someone smile, if we made someone laugh, then we're doing our job.
A good morning shout out to Stephanie from King RA Press, the
Woohoo.
writer's block. She and Heidi have an awesome space on X. Writers, if you are an aspiring writer, successful veteran writer, or you're thinking about getting into it, this is a space to jump into. Listen, jump in, great conversations, a great positive uplifting of minds. And one of the things I love about it is it's one of those every boat rises with the tide mentality. Everybody's there to make each other better writers. Love that group. Heidi's got a cool book that's coming out or that's already out. And
Yeah,
then
the
the audio
audiobook's coming
series
out.
coming out soon. And
And then don't forget Mod. You can't forget Mod. Mod's in there. Mod to Severe.
Mod to Severe. What a great, by the way, I love that name. Moderate to Severe.
I mean,
Mod to Severe.
I
Great
think
interactions with him. He and I have
wonderful
talked
name.
video games quite a bit. So awesome folks. Excellent. And also we've gotten some feedback from you. And part of it is feedback is where are you? Well, we're back and we're considering doing every other week. Is that right, Chris?
That is right, Mindrunner. We've discussed this, we've debated it. It depends also slightly. I would argue that this slightly depends on the input of the folks in the audience, right? If this is
Yes.
beneficial to them, if they want to see more of it, then we will produce more content. If there's not a desire or a need, I would like to hear kind of that feedback. So I encourage folks to chime in, to comment when they see this, or to offer feedback on the podcast, whatever the case may be. Let us know. Is this starting your week off right? What can we do better? I would love to hear more from the audience.
Absolutely. And, we've been getting appreciating the feedback you already are being given in, a lot of your DMs and emails. What are the segments that you like? What are the segments that you think, you don't guys need to do that? And what are some things you'd like to hear from us and to help you start your week? I've gotten some feedback. There's one person that has said, I need to talk in my mic like this to be better heard, to kind of sound like NPR a little bit.
A little bit.
Welcome to Coffee Talk with Chris and Myndrunner. So I might be working on getting myself one of those boom arms to come down. I think the mic's good, so we'll see.
Yeah, your microphone sounds good.
I've also gotten some feedback and let me know in the chat. Sipping from a straw during a podcast, is that unprofessional?
Mindrunner, I was going to say something about that. I saw somebody do that on TV over the weekend on a news broadcast. They were actually sipping from a straw during a conversation with someone where the other person was talking, right? And I mean, I think that there's it's a controversial topic, but something that I would love to hear people's opinions on.
Yeah, let us know, because when you're having a conversation with somebody and the other person's like this, tell me about this thing that's very important to you.
That's right. That's so funny.
I mean, is that professional? Is it kind of, or should we be sipping from mugs? Maybe we should have some merchandising, something like that.
Maybe that. I don't know if that's the way we want to go with our merch, but we can discuss this offline.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I heard that there. We were sourcing some sponsorships. We need some sponsors. We were, speaking of which, right, merch and some sort of income streams. Do we have?
We actually do.
Okay, good.
We have a great sponsor. We've been reaching out. One of our sponsors today is a great company, a great produce company. They produce legumes, a number of items, tasty items that you just want to put in your mouth. So let's hear from our sponsor today. From this young lady, this elderly lady runs. Her name's Dee, and she runs. This is all like we're very pro small business.
Absolutely.
But again, it's not the size of her nuts that is important. It's how they taste in your mouth. So, ladies and gentlemen, our sponsor today by Dee's Nuts.
Hello, Positive Minds friends. Today's episode is brought to you by Dee's Nuts, your one-stop destination for a nutty delight. Are you craving a snack that's both delicious and energizing? Check out Dee's Nuts for a special offer just for our amazing Positive Minds audience. Picture this, a crunchy sensation dipped in rich chocolate or infused with a refreshing minty twist. Yes, you heard it right. Dee's Nuts offers a variety of flavors that will tantalize your taste buds and leave you wanting more, including pineapple or asparagus. And the best part, you can enjoy these delightful treats by the sackful or opt to catch a single serving nut. Whether you're on the go or lounging at home, Dee's Nuts has got you covered. So why wait? Treat yourself to the ultimate snacking experience with Dee's Nuts. Head over to the website now to order your special snack sack of nuts and elevate your snack game to a whole new level. Don't forget to use code POSITIVEMINDS at checkout for an exclusive discount. That's code POSITIVEMINDS for savings on your next nutty adventure with Dee's Nuts. Thanks for tuning in, Positive Minds fam. And remember, when life gets nutty, embrace the positive and grab a handful of Dee's Nuts.
Grab Dee'sNuts.com. One of our great sponsors, and I love the ad read there too. One of our shout out to Ben. He is the sponsorship guru. If you are looking for somebody to help you with sponsorships, go find the Stash Dash King on X.
Yep.
What a great professional read. At no point was he breaking character. At no point was he cracking up at all. I thought that was great.
Yeah, Myndrunner, I was curious about that product though. He did say that there's some certain flavors that we don't have to go through that now, but I do think the tantalizing treat flavors are worth discussing in a future conversation. But definitely, people should consider grabbing them by the sackful.
By the sackful, I do prefer to catch a single serving nut on my own. Sometimes when you're on the go, you don't have time to put a whole sackful in your mouth. Yeah. And I love the variety of flavors. You never know what kind of nut you're going to catch. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, let's move on to the next topic.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things we always want to make sure of around here is we want to make sure that we are spreading positive news. One of the things that we tend to hear a lot of is a lot of negativity. Negativity gets clicks. Negativity is what gets attention. So we want to flip the script and we want to spread some positive news. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's flip the script on media and get some positive news. All right. First up, I want to share this on the screen. I found this clip, and we get this from goodnews.com.
Love it.
I want to share this with you. This is driver saves children before school bus explodes. So this lady gets the badass award from us. School bus driver Kia Rosev rescued a flock of children when her bus caught fire. And it wasn't until the last one, I think, little typo there. Yeah. Last one off, took 8 or 9 steps before the front half exploded into flames. You can see the cheese wagon right there. You can see the front of the school bus. But she was able to get all the kids off, and then she herself got off. Very action movie, very very Vin Diesel-ish, very something that you would see. What are your thoughts on this?
I'll say this, Myndrunner. This is something that we also discussed on my Friday Coffee House space. Make sure you check that out too every Friday with our good friend Stephanie Jansen. We talked about this. This was actually one of the first things we discussed was this amazing news of this school bus driver who she realized that something was up with this bus. She got all the kids off the bus and she was the last one off. And then again, only a few steps, and then she's then the whole thing goes up in flames. It's the sort of thing where we need this kind of news in the world. We need to remind people that it exists. I think it's kind of step one, right? Like the concept that there are heroes that exist every single day, not just in movies or during the summer blockbuster season. Like heroes exist all over the place.
Yeah.
You just have to keep your eyes open, right? And recognize that there are good things going on. And this isn't to say, we've talked about this before, this isn't to say that the world is only full of good. There's very much a ton of evil that goes on in the world. We're not saying to blind yourself to that. What we're saying is that if you start off your day and your week with a reminder that not everyone is evil, which I think sometimes is hard to say given kind of the state of affairs in the world nowadays, right? It's hard to really to embrace that philosophy. But if we at least try, make that step, I think that goes a long way. And this is kind of an example of that, right? The hero of the story here is the school bus driver who, again, she put she put these kids in front of herself. Like she put them as the priority. She understood as a school bus driver, her job is to keep these kids safe, right? And I think we all, in theory, would do this thing. We do the same thing in that situation, but that's tough to know unless you're in it. I think she does win the Badass of the Month award for us. I think she deserves it wholeheartedly, and I think that's a definite shoo-in for that award. She's a rock star.
And this is another thing I think that you bring up a very good point, and kind of why the reason we have the good news segment is a lot of times we hear just the negative side of things, especially when it comes to the education system. We're hearing a lot of negatives right now. We're hearing a lot of negatives. A lot of parents are finger pointing at teachers. Teachers are blaming administration. Administration's being shady. And a lot of times we only pay attention when something goes wrong on a school bus. A lot of times we only hear about, like, we don't see the crises that were averted by a sharp mind, by somebody like this badass. That the only reason this even made the news because it was the school bus then exploded. But if it was just a fire or something like that, and how many times do we miss these unsung heroes that have averted crisis and have saved lives, and we don't hear about them? So definitely we want to find as many ways as possible. If you guys have a badass that you'd like to submit for us to talk about, let us know.
Absolutely.
But in your own community, make sure that these folks get their thanks, because teachers, the bus drivers, a lot of the stuff that they do is out of their control. Those are two jobs that have so much responsibility, but so much of their autonomy is taken away, especially with teachers nowadays. Especially, there's the people making decisions in education are not the ones having to implement these decisions, and they're not the ones responsible. So, and I can't imagine driving a school bus full of adolescents. I know how I was, we're farting on each other and throwing stuff at each other and giving each other Indian burns. And that was in the 80s. Now we've got, these kids these days. I wouldn't be able to hack it as a bus driver. I think I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, I'd struggle. It's one of those jobs of unsung heroes, I would say. Like you said, I think you're spot on with that. These are people who deserve a little more than just the occasional pat on the back. So I'm glad that we started off with this topic, or at least this story, because it's worth reiterating and repeating, right? It's we again, this was something that came out, I think, last Thursday or Friday, and I'm happy to highlight it again because some people missed it, and it's important.
Yeah, and you got an awesome show there too, the coffee talk. Coffee talk. Do you talk like this though for coffee talk?
We have a lot of I would say people from the Eastern Seaboard on our conversation. I haven't heard too much of the kind of New York accent, but we do get some folks with accents, and it's fine. You can come in and join us from wherever you are, from the confines, the cozy confines of your house, or from an actual coffee shop. You can join us, and I appreciate you letting me shill that for a second, but it's yeah, no, I think again, going back to this topic, I think it's important to reiterate the heroes that exist in our lives and these and everyone else's lives. I think it's major. So,
And I mean no disrespect when I sip from my cup
yeah,
today.
feel free, This
No
is
disrespect.
no, absolutely not. But I think we have another
We
example
do.
of good news,
I
right?
would like to share this. This is awesome. And again, when we talk about the kids, even the kids aren't, not all the kids are bad. In fact, just this might give you some inspiration for the future generations. Students raise funds for Nigerian security guard to visit home. This is such an awesome story here. The students at Providence College in Rhode Island, Brandon Reichart, he organized a GoFundMe, he and his buddies, a GoFundMe for this security guard. For the last 5 years, security guard James, they don't have a last name for him, hasn't been able to return to his homeland to visit his family. He's but he's been like an icon, and he's been such a supportive person to everybody there at Providence College. So Brandon organized a GoFundMe to secretly arrange a trip back to Nigeria with pocket money included. And they raised up to $30,000 on GoFundMe to cover travel, food, and some pocket money for him to go back and visit his family, something he hasn't been able to do for the last 5 years. And to me, this is cool because a lot of times we hear about all the negative. We've got generations pitted against each other. Gen X is stuck between the boomers versus millennials, and then we've got Gen Z, and we got all this blah blah blah. I love to highlight when we hear the newer generations doing good stuff, and this is, to me, this is such a feel good story. And you can just see, look at the smile on the dude's face. I mean, he's in tears that he's going to be able to go see his family.
It's a huge deal. I mean, this story, it's heartwarming, and it's, again, you have a lot of people who I think want to support folks who can't go back home, right? Like, who want to go and can't afford it. And then we see I want to say shout out to Courtney there. We got a bunch of comments from good friend Courtney, fan of the pod, friend of the pod. Yeah,
the Scully to my Mulder.
There you go. But yeah, this example, this story, right? We have another one that just, again, reminds people that there is good in the world, and these are, again, let's just take a step back and remember, these are students who organize this, right? This isn't some like wealthy donor who's like from somewhere in the richest part of the world. These are students who said, you know what, we want to help this person, the security guard here, travel back home, and then they set up this GoFundMe, and it was successful because, again, people do want to help each other out. At the end of the day, if you live a life where you don't think that people do exist who do want to help you and do want to encourage you, then you're missing it, right? You're missing the point. Like, it's easy to fall victim to that mindset of, the world is out to get me. Yes. Because, again, there are really bad people in the world. I heard the story a couple of days ago about going to a concert. Some people went to a concert recently, and there were pickpockets everywhere. And it's like, this, we're talking about in the United States. Like, this is not like in some other country, but like here in our country recently, there were like basically like a gang of pickpocketers at this conference or at this concert, and like you couldn't get away from them, right? Like, and it was hard to really. It was like this really, really organized pickpocket crew who was able to distract people over here on this one side, and then do this pickpocketing thing here and get away with it. And they were really successful. And it's one of those things where, yeah, that exists. Be vigilant and be aware that they exist, and don't let it totally own you. If you can find a way to, remember that you should be there to enjoy that concert, right? And that's the point. If all you're doing is being worried about pickpockets, then you won't even go, right? Or you won't enjoy it. So I think this is an example where people want to help each other out. It's just a good reminder that exists.
Absolutely. And there's there's a healthy balance too, because one of the things I think that I think sometimes people swing the other way is we tend to forget that the world is cruel. I mean, you can't get mad at the lion for eating the gazelle. You can't get mad at the predator for eating the prey. So you have to be on your guard. You have to have common sense. You have to don't put yourself in a situation. It doesn't excuse the pickpocketers if you put yourself. So be smart, be aware, but also, and this is going to kind of feed into a point I want to talk about later. But you also don't want to isolate yourself and never go out and take those chances, because you're missing out on so much in the world if you don't take risks. There's so much of the joy that I've had in my life is because I said, you know what, let's do it. Just be smart about it. Go enjoy the concert, but be smart. Maybe put your wallet in your front pocket instead of your back pocket, or just be a little bit smarter about how you present yourself. Be aware of your surroundings. But I posted yesterday some thoughts on no regrets. And I posted no regrets. It's an inside joke about the dude that got the tattoo that says no regrets from
or the Millers. Yeah.
But I was thinking about it is, a lot of the things that happened in my life, a lot of decisions I made led to who I am today, and I'm pretty happy with who I am today. The only thing is, this is like the only real hard regrets I think that I have are those times where I didn't take the chance. I didn't make the move. I didn't, risk. I didn't have any risk. And so that's one of the things I encourage people to do is take those chances. The worst that can happen, I mean, other than, there's some pretty bad things can happen, but as long as you're being smart, being wise, being, having critical thinking and common sense, sometimes you might surprise yourself. So I encourage people to take those risks. And as far as like encouraging things, it's good to hear. I think sometimes what you consume kind of shapes your view of the world. Absolutely. And I think a lot of times we don't really see how much good there is in the world. We focus on the guy that left the shopping cart in the middle of the street. We don't think about the people that are helping other people and doing those other things. I think
spot on, Mynrunner. I think it's just a good reminder that, again, this does exist. The goodness of people, it exists, and it's a good reminder, because we all need that reminder once in a while. And I mean, what you said is spot on too about like just the regrets thing. I think it's important to live your life to the fullest and learn from those mistakes, right? And we've talked about that before too. It's you either win or you learn, right? Life is not about the whole just the wins and the losses, but rather what have you done to get back up, right? How have you gotten back up from those?
Off.
That's right.
Exactly.
And, as our good friends Chumbawamba said, you get knocked down, but you get up again.
Yep.
And you're never gonna hold me down. Like that's the kind of thing, right? You just got to keep on
the night away.
On. That's right. That's the classic. It's a classic for those who
drink a
have
whiskey
not heard
drink.
Tub Thumping. Make sure you listen to that. It's a good pump up song if you need a little
drink
bit
a
of
lager drink, drink a cider drink. The one thing though I have to say is it gets a little bit weird trusting the media and trusting the government. Would you agree that trusting our United States government and trusting the world governments and trust in legacy media, would you say it's at an all-time low at this time?
Sure feels like it, Mynrunner. It seems like there's this overall distrust of what's being sold to people, more broadly, and I think that's it's just, again, as media kind of changes the way that it is created and divulged and disseminated, right? And kind of the what I would call the incentive structure, right? The incentive structures that exist are for likes and clicks and reposts and and virality. And if that's what you need, and so the media kind of, if they're incentivized to that, they're going to do that. And you said like the trust in governments. Well, I mean, we just said a minute ago, like life is cruel. The government can't do everything to fix the world, because there's always this kind of the push and pull, right, of good and evil, and there's going to be if you incentivize for this one thing, then you need to disincentivize for something else too. So it's really complex, and it's a tough question to answer, I think, Mynrunner, in terms of like, how do you fix it? But I would say for sure that there's a sense that things are kind of, I think that trust overall in governments and media more broadly definitely doesn't exist.
I think and what's really amazing too is a lot of the stuff that a lot of us have dismissed as conspiracy theory are coming true. The more we find out, I mean, I think a lot of people at this point don't believe that Oswald was the only one that shot Kennedy. There's a lot of conspiracy. Now, granted, now there's some crazy stuff that I think started at 4chan, like the flat Earth stuff, but one of the biggest conspiracies that seems to be gaining some traction, and something that I felt like could be easily proved or disproved, but when I tried to prove it, I started really questioning maybe the conspiracy is correct. So to segue into our next segment, I think it's time for you and I to go down the rabbit hole of the moon landing. All right, following us down the rabbit hole. Let us know in the chat. We're going to ask this question. Do you believe that we actually landed on the moon? Or
it's a valid question.
Was that all a way to, was that all a facade? Was Stanley Kubrick involved? Was this all just to combat the propaganda to convince our political enemies that we were ahead in the space race? Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, Mynrunner, this is a great question, and was it real, and how do we prove it? Or it's kind of an interrelated question. I think if you think about how quickly we grew, or our understanding of how to, I think, get onto the moon, right? I think when we started, or when that effort was started, I think it was how long it take, like 5-10 years, really, from the time that it was mentioned. I think by one of our, again, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was mentioned by a president at the time that we were going to be, I think by the end of the decade, I think it was JFK, we were going to be at the end of the decade, be on the moon. And the thing is, like, it happened so quickly, and it's sort of, again, we're going down the rabbit hole, so we can kind of throw out whatever ideas we have, but it very well could be something that was generated by Hollywood types to kind of, like, again, it's a way to, I think, grow a degree of patriotism, right? And especially in that space race that you talked about.
Yeah.
If you don't at least throw the notion out there that it's possible, I think it seems like a little bit of short-sighted, I guess, right? Myopic to think that that's not at least a slight, even if it's a very slight possibility that it could be faked. And like our good friends, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, say, space may be the final frontier, but it also started in Hollywood, made in a Hollywood basement. So, like, I mean, it's again, like, you can believe what you want to believe, but it's there's at least some potential little nugget there of possibility, I would say.
Well, what gets me is how, like, we haven't really been back much, like, once we got there and then came back, it's almost like, okay, now what? Like how quickly? Now, granted, I know the Challenger explosion really made the country kind of pause. That was a very terrible moment, and it seemed like up to that point there was a big space race continuing. There was a lot of almost like, I mean, I don't want to make a parallel between what the space shuttles were and the Boeing 747s now or 757s now, but like it seemed like there was such a race that they were cutting corners, and maybe the military industrial complex at the time was focused on space, but realized there wasn't money in it. I don't know, but it's just I understand space stations and whatnot, but it seems weird that we haven't gone back to the moon yet. You know what I mean? And like why there
Really good
hasn't
point.
been much of that.
I think the investment structure, I think there hasn't been as much investment going in there, Mindrunner. I think to support the
Mhm.
efforts. You would think that would be something that we could investigate further and just learn more about, and get up there and actually start to learn more about kind of what exists there. If we've successfully done it in the past, you would think that would at least give us a structure to or some sort of a starting point for how to get back. It's
Mhm.
a great question and a great point that you brought up about like why haven't we returned. I think funding is probably at least part of it, and maybe
Yeah.
it's just not as appealing once you've done something, once you've conquered something. Maybe there's this lack of desire to do it again because you've already done it once. I don't know. It's a great point, and kind of on a related note, since we're going down the rabbit hole, I'd like to throw out this idea or this question to you. Is there something else out there? You have our good friend Courtney, chiming in, and we have the what do we have, the Mulder and the Scully
Yeah.
here,
We want to
pairing
believe.
here. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, well, how do you believe in the existence of some other I would call it intelligent life form? How about that?
Well, I love the Arthur C. Clarke quote. We're either alone in the universe or we're not, and both are equally terrifying. We just got finished watching. Deb and I just got finished watching the three body problem or three.
Yeah, I think this is on Netflix, right? A new show. Yeah.
I have some issues with it, but it's worth a watch. At least the first 5 episodes are worth a watch. It's definitely extraterrestrial oriented. A lot of rave reviews. I mean, there's majority of people love this. I think I might have set myself up for some disappointment, but I do think what's interesting is I think it's with the number of the way that the earth was designed, and it's so perfect for sustaining life. And you can look at, there's so many arguments. You can look at Venus and Mars and see how, Venus is almost like what our world could become. Mars is almost like, hey, it's like the next, it's like Earth, but still freeze dried, like we could create an Earth out of Mars. But then now, there's been so much discovered of our universe that we're finding other worlds that are very similar to ours. So the fact that, I mean, even if it's not necessarily intelligent, I find it highly improbable that there's not life on other planets, like that there's something. I find it improbable,
Yeah.
and I think it's very possible. But again, a lot of what we I think a lot of what we think about when it comes to aliens, we have those classic, little green men
Oh
or,
yeah.
Klingons or what have you. They may not look like that, and they may not even look like anything we can comprehend. We're also talking about a totally, beings coming from a totally different environment. But so I think the fact that we haven't seen anything doesn't necessarily mean they don't exist. One of my biggest arguments in media is that a lot of times they'll say, we've seen no evidence. Well, when you've seen no evidence, that doesn't mean the evidence isn't there. You haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it yet. Exactly. Then the us not finding something doesn't mean it's not there, right? Like anything else. I think I want to say, I don't know if it was the moon or Mars, but recently there was this I think this discovery of um of I think some sort of like liquid I want to say like I think it might be Mars actually. There's like liquid on the surface, right? Or there's like evidence that there was some sort of like water base
Hmm.
on the planet and frozen up or something under the surface. But like the point is like it's very, very much possible that like under the surface, like we will find some sort of once we get back to exploring these planets a little more thoroughly, we may find that there is something there or there is proof that something existed at one point, right? Which I think is like
Yeah.
a mind-blowing thing for me when I really start to think about the potential for there being other life forms out there and in space. My head starts to kind of feel like it's exploding in a sense, because
Yeah.
like it was like what could that potentially look like? What does that why have they not come here yet? Or are they, like, I mean, like, there's all these like
Or are they
Area
here?
51 things.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, there's friend of the pod here, Tom DeLong from Blink 182 does believe, and he has, I think, come out on social media and in other podcast interviews, talking about how he has seen evidence. He's been privy enough to I think be read into certain kind of behind the scenes
Yeah.
government groups, and they've let him in on that. And again, I have no reason to doubt the guy. I mean, maybe he does say things that may or may not be true, but I mean,
Well, I
it's
think it's
entirely
important.
possible.
I
Yeah,
think it's important to focus on all the small things. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I think that's
absolutely.
what's important.
Well said. Well said there. Well said, Myndrunner.
Well, let me
Well played.
throw this at you and ask in the chat. Do you believe that we landed the drones on Mars? Because I actually, with my class, we stayed late and watched the Mars landing of the Independence, I believe is what it was, and we watched the landing on Mars, and we watched it live. And now, granted, that's it's not a human landing on Mars, but it looked real. I mean, it didn't. I mean, it could have easily been generated in a studio, but I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the case. Yet we've just pretty much blown off the moon. Like, there's nothing to see here. Then there's the whole argument. So my question is this: one, do you believe we actually landed on Mars? And if so, do you think that we have been going back to the moon? We're just not telling anybody about it?
Those are both fantastic questions. And I
Yep.
think I do think that the Mars stuff is happening. There's been, I think, enough there's been enough, I think, back and forth in, like, not just in the media, but I think just there's been this push to explore Mars more by a bunch of people, and people. I think if we weren't going and at least exploring Mars, then it would come out eventually. People would say,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is a bunch of baloney. It's not happening." The moon thing, it's a great question. Maybe we are going back and just not telling anyone. Good to see our good friend Ben there. We also
Yeah.
had a couple other comments from a couple people as well earlier, and I do want about the pyramids. I saw something about the pyramids.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about this.
Brent brought up a great point. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think definitely Mars. I think Mars exploration is happening. Obviously, I don't know anybody personally who's been up to Mars or has commanded a rover in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that it's happening, and I'm excited it's happening, because we should be looking at the potential for terraforming other planets, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you look at what's going on. I heard something recently about our I want to say it was like the water temperatures across the globe. They were at their highest temperature in 2023, and then they're testing it so far in 2024. And here on planet Earth, we're already outpacing 2023's temperatures for our oceans, and it's only like 3 months in, and we have not maintained 2023 levels or gotten below them. We've outstripped that 3 months in a row, and we're on pace to continue to kind of warm up our oceans for the rest of 2024. So I think it would be foolish of us to not look at the potential of other planets and find other opportunities for us, as humans, looking, we're talking, 10, 20, 50, 100, centuries down the road, right? And we're talking like many, many years down, but like we should be planning for the future. And I think Mars exploration makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah. And by the way, I stand corrected. It was Perseverance, and it was the lander, the lunar,
right.
the Martian lander. I get all of my Mars terraforming knowledge I get from Arnold and Total Recall.
That's right.
Melt the ice caps, make it like Earth.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. I am Quaid. What is that in your belly, Quato?
That's right. There you go.
That's where I get all my scientific basis on that. So I don't know. Interesting stuff. Let's talk about the pyramids, though, because that's something that, it's one of those things where I think a mistake that a lot of us make is we assume that people were dumber in the past. I don't think people were less intelligent. I just think less experience being human. I think there's less wise. So I think there's a possibility that you could build the pyramids, but the technology that they had at the time, okay, well, first of all, I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you think that humans built the pyramids?
It's another fantastic question. We're hitting this one out of the park, Myndrunner, so far, because I think all of these are really fascinating topics, and I love Brent's comment about this. I think it's again worth exploring and discussing. If we don't wrap it here on our pod, we need to bring this back up maybe next time around, because I think, if you look at the pyramids, right, and kind of what they represent, right, it's sort of this like almost like a perfect design, or like you think about like the way that they're structured and like they're weighted and how the blocks are set the right way, and yet it's very, very much almost like this perfect design in a sense. I think that you're right, and as far as how I think people were probably quite intelligent back then too. And if you put a bunch of really smart people together and you create a plan for putting, these blocks in place, and you have a certain kind of design you want to happen. If you have a lot of people in a certain part of the world, which I do believe that was kind of like the cradle of the earth, so to speak, right? That part of that
Tigris
part
and
of
Euphrates. Yep.
Exactly. And you have like, the Nile. I think you have so much of, I think, the human population that lived there, and you have some really, really smart people kind of architecting it all. I mean, it may be difficult to believe, like, I guess, given our current kind of times and kind of, applying our modern perspective to it. But I think that it's very much possible that humans did it. Although, again, there's this theory that they sort of, possibly came out of the sky and landed there. I mean, it's, like, who knows, right? I mean, like, we were not there to see it happen, Myndrunner.
Yep.
And so we can't really say, but I do think as I think about I think just the masses, the multitudes, the throngs of people that were in that part of the world at that time. And if you start to really, I think, appreciate what can be done when you have that many people in one place, I do think it sort of becomes a little more believable that humans created the pyramids.
Yeah, and then we're also discounting that sometimes technology gets lost. In wars and conquest. Alexander the Great conquering. Genghis Khan conquering. They say there's a fraction of a percentage of Genghis Khan's blood in everybody because he conquered and laid so many people. But he like there is the whole thing about, like, there's technology that can get lost, and the possibility, like, if there was a catastrophic event that wiped out all but 10% of the human population and we had to rebuild, most people don't know how to make a cell phone. Most people don't know. I mean, there would be no internet. We'd have to start from scratch, and it's going to take many generations. I mean, you'd have to be back almost in that post-apocalyptic Fallout 4 kind of mentality. And then you'd have to back up with a lot of this technology from scratch. So then imagine being like a fifth generation of this new starting over group race of humans. And then you find an iPad, or you find some like the Sphere at Vegas. You've got to, the first conclusion might be, aliens, or
Yeah.
something, or gods or something. So I don't know. I think it's possible that we could have had there could have been technology back then that was lost, and then the dumb leftovers in Egypt were like, "Oh man, where'd everybody go?" But to borrow that Joe Rogan classic joke that he does.
Yeah.
So it's possible either
I
way.
love it. I love it. Yeah, no, and I think it just reminds you again, check out season 1 of The Walking Dead. It's a kind of a good reminder of what the world could look like, right?
Hmm.
Catastrophic event type thing. And imagine trying to put together a pyramid, and that at that point, like you're just not doing it, right? And you're
Yeah.
not, and I think it's just a good reminder that, yeah, you're right. I think technology probably existed back then that that could be lost to the eons, and we just don't know what that is. So it's, again, like you said, it's possible, and I think we can wrap it, that part or this segment, with that.
I think we can move on. I do think that it's something that we'll have to revisit several times, just like the aliens have with us. But
That's right.
it is time for us. We again appreciate your feedback. Let us know some topics that you'd like us to jump down the rabbit hole. You can DM us at Myndrunner or Positively Chris on X, or you can email us at Myndrunner@gmail, what have you. But we do have some advice that we'd like to give you. Again, we are the Doctors Feel Good. We want to give our unprofessional but helpful, I feel like, common sense advice. But
Absolutely.
let's get to your DMs and emails. Chris, you feel like rocking, or do you feel like you want to go Japanese anime, or do you feel a little gothy today?
Let's do that last one. I'll let you say that word, but yeah, let's do the last one.
Oh, you're feeling gothy today? All right, let's get a little emo. DMs and emails. Tell us what makes you cry. Then wait for Chris to sigh. DMs and emails. All right, at Chris's side, and it's time for us to get to our emails. We've got two DM. They're both DMs, actually, that we've got. And again, we're going to read them, and we appreciate you sending this in. We're going to give our best advice, and in the comments, let us know what your thoughts are on these situations. So here's our first DM, and this is hold on. Did I get the right one? Hang on. I think I got the wrong. Jamie, you got the wrong thing. Our Jamie is
Jamie
messing up. Way to go, Jamie. Okay.
There it is.
There we go. It's been 2 years since I lost my wife, and let me tell you, I ain't getting it. It ain't getting any easier. My girls, they've all moved out and moved on with their lives, but I'm still stuck in the past, missing her something fierce. Something fierce. All right. I've been trying to get back to the dating scene, trying to move on and all. But every time I meet someone new, I can't help but compare him to my wife. It's like I'm stuck in this endless loop, and I don't know how to break free. I want to move on, but I don't want to rely on self-medication to numb the pain. So what do you think? How can I start moving forward without losing sight of the memories I hold dear? Signed, Danny. Whew. Wow, that's a tough one. Right off the bat, I definitely want to hear your thoughts there, Chris. But right off the bat, it's condolences to you. But it sounds like it's been some time. I think you got to really start to repair the pieces that you've lost with yourself. If I lost Deb, I would be devastated, because I don't think I'd ever find somebody that I would have that close relationship with. But what you've got to do is those pieces that she filled in your heart, you've got to build that in yourself first, because otherwise you're going to do the same thing. You're going to be looking for someone to fill a void that they may not be prepared to do, and that's unfair to them. You can still find some joy in somebody but you've got to kind of, I think, spend some time on yourself. I think, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but I think that before you really are going to find anybody, in the dating scene, and I know you probably want to get laid too, but like, I don't think you're going to find anything more than a casual hookup unless you start really believing in yourself a little bit more. I don't know, Chris, what are your thoughts?
Those are all great points, Myndrunner. I think I can speak from some experience on this. I think it's hard to put yourself back out there. There's a level of courage that it takes to kind of get yourself, through this type of situation. And I think you're right. I think first off, you need to kind of accept the fact that nobody will replace that person that you've lost. Right. I think that's like kind of step one, right? Is that it kind of recognize that and come to grips with that, and recognize that's she will never not be a part of your being, right? I think that's worth remembering and kind of internalizing, but then also not letting the memories be what holds you back. And the way that it's easier said than done, but what you do is you say, yes, this is part of who I am, but if I do want to get back out there, I need to be willing to accept the fact that it's going to be tough, but you need to kind of have this like level of, and I think it's like self-respect or and it's really getting yourself out there is kind of something I think that that this person would want you to do, right? I think if you think about it from that way too, it's like, what would this person want you to do? Like if they had a chance to talk to you before they passed on, like what would they say? Regarding your future relationship status, right? Would they want you to be feeling burdened and unhappy and struggling with moving forward? No, they probably would want you to still find some sort of peace and well-being. And I think that's kind of worth remembering too, is that like, it's really tough. I mean, this is a tough conversation to have, but it's recognizing that person is not going to ever leave who you are internally, but also having that and also moving forward in a way that reminds you that that person would want you to move forward.
I'm with you on that. I think it's tough losing anybody that you're close to is tough. I feel like a lot of times too, the pain we feel is proportional to how much we've invested in that relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship with a pet, family. Definitely when you've almost created your identity around somebody. One of the things I value with my relationship with Deb is that we have our individual, we are ourselves who are together. Like it's not like neither one of us have become codependent. Well, she'd argue sometimes I'm dependent. I don't pick up around myself and, whatever, but that's a whole other discussion. But seriously though, like you when you lose somebody, when you lose a partner, when you lose a spouse, it's devastating. But the only way you heal is repairing those pieces with yourself and just you're really kind of moving forward. So easier said than done. Again, Absolutely. We're not experts, but we
are the doctors feel good. We're not real doctors. Please don't use what we say as medical advice.
Yeah, but it's do the best you can with what you got. We have one other DM that we'd like to share that we picked out. This is all right. Here we go from Mika. All right. Here's the deal. My husband snores like a freight train. Okay. I'm talking shaking the walls loud. It's become a nightly race against time to fall asleep before he starts up. And honestly, I'm losing that race more often than not. I've tried earplugs, white noise machines, you name it, but nothing seems to drown out the noise. And let me tell you, I love my husband a bitch, but when he goes on his snoring spree, I seriously want to smother him with a pillow. Boy, what a contrast to the last one.
Yeah.
I've tried nudging him awake to get him to stop, but he just gets mad at me for interrupting his sleep. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm running on fumes here, and it's starting to take a toll on our relationship. Any advice on how to deal with this without resorting to homicide would be greatly appreciated, Mika. All right. I have some experience with this. I have sleep apnea. I have a sleep apnea machine, and that has probably saved up my marriage from the standpoint of saved my life too, because one of the things that my that I I have a I have a no, my nose and my whole antebellum, whatever this is called, cerebellum, I don't know, antebellum,
Close
whatever
enough.
this. Yeah, close enough. I've
Close
heard it
enough.
many ways.
We're not doctors.
We're not dying. We're the doctors feel good. We're not the doctors nose candy. But but like I have sleep apnea, so I wear a mask, and it helps me with breathe, because I would actually Deb would notice that I would stop breathing at night, and so like I would actually just stop breathing completely. She would nudge me awake, not because of snoring, but because I wasn't breathing at all. And so I went and I got the studies done, and yeah, I actually had sleep apnea. But that's one of those things, is snoring. A lot of times that's when you're the back of your throat or whatever is just is blocking a lot of the airways, and it sounds like like a whoopee cushion in your mouth, and that's what a lot of the snoring is. So for my snoring, I still have moments where I still snore even with a mask, but it's nowhere near as bad. The other side of it is, my Deb snores too, but I've actually got a down feather pillow that I put over my ear, and that actually does a great job canceling it out. Sometimes having some kind of white noise in the room too kind of helps drown out a lot of that. But I would suggest having your husband get tested for sleep apnea, because that could be part of it. That could be the issue. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I don't have much else to add. I think what you said is spot on. I think in going to a doctor is kind of step one. Getting tested is definitely part of this process, right? Make sure that you actually get yourself checked out. And yeah, I don't encourage any type of homicide amongst spouses. Despite how many times it was mentioned in that DM, I recommend you have your spouse see a medical professional, and that's where I would leave that. I know we're getting close to the end of the hour here. I do want to make sure we have time for our wrap up. But yeah, this has been a good conversation. I think I'd say go to the doctor is kind of where I would wrap that one up at.
Yeah. And don't try maybe sleep in another room or before you try to kill your spouse.
Exactly. Try sleeping in a different room.
Well, this has been an awesome show. Let us know if you want us to go more frequently. Let us know what segments you like. What do you think we should focus more on? And let us know. Let us know. Send us in your emails and DMs, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. It's time to wrap up. So it's time for some fortune cookie wisdom from Myndrunner and Positively Myndz. All right, I'll keep it quick with mine. Mine is just really quick. I just want to say no regrets. Take those chances. You'll regret not taking the chances more than the risks of taking those chances. And Chris, your fortune cookie takeaway?
Yeah, embrace the win-win. It's a simple phrase, but it gets often overlooked when we're dealing with day-to-day things. And I'll make mine quick too. I think we think about life as super competitive, but if we treat things as something other than a zero-sum game, then I think our mindset, we start to change that way of thinking. It really does benefit not just us, but other people as well. If you think about finding a way to work together with other people, and we can both walk away feeling satisfied and fulfilled. So I just say focus on finding common ground is kind of a good kind of way to wrap this. I think we can all do a better job of that.
Absolutely. Well, for Positively Chris and Myndrunner, this has been awesome. Check out, immediately dropping right now is my chat with Sarah Foss. She's one half of the Wid Hose podcast. She actually talks about dating life after losing a spouse. So definitely check that out. And Positively Chris, you've got the coffee chats on Friday.
I do.
You've got Ignite That Light, all kinds of stuff. So check us out, and we will see you on the flip side. This has been Positive Minds.